I love stories. I have to say, as a little girl, I loved books. I was a voracious reader. And of course, I went into a profession, elementary school teacher, where reading books, I read a book upside down better than I read it right side up, because I've read so many books showing them to kids, upside down. And then going on as the importance of books and movies to shape our lives. Very, very important. I looked at the world we're living in today, and I thought, stories and books. What stories and books have something to say about this interesting, unusual, often difficult, sometimes lonely, sometimes not, sometimes joyous and unexpected time we live? And the first book I thought of was one that those of you that have had little kids or been in school or anything like that know about, The Very Hungry Caterpillar. That was my favorite book with my kids. It was just such a cute little book to read, and for my kindergarten class. It's just a darling little book about a little egg on a leaf that grows up as a caterpillar and gets hungrier and hungrier and just eats its way through everything, all the different things it eats its way through until it's so full it has to stop and become a cocoon. And what happens in that cocoon? It transforms and becomes a butterfly. And I thought, how interesting, what layers. I mean, that book was published, I think, in, I'm not sure, 1969 maybe, and it's as important today, maybe even more important than it was then. And I think about what's happened. We start out as little individuals, and then we grow up in this society, and we were going pretty fast and hard in life and all these connections and where we were going, then boom, we're so full and we get stopped in our tracks. And now we're in a cocoon. We are in a cocoon, and we get to decide what we're going to do when, bam, life has shut us down. So we have time to readjust, reevaluate, to transform, to reimagine. And that's what happens in that little cocoon, or the imaginal cells of the butterfly. We get to reimagine who and what we're going to be in this thing called life. So that was the first thing I thought of. Went way back. The second one didn't have quite the same impact, but it's something I'll never forget. And I'm sure, well, first of all, I'll tell you, and then I'll have you guess what you think. It's a movie, and it's one word, but I'm not going to tell you any more than that. I'll tell you about me. So at 4 years old, my dad took me on a fishing trip, and it was one of those half-day boats. I think we either left out of the Redondo Pier or out of Paradise Cove, and it's a deep-sea fishing. And I remember at 4, all I would do is look in that water and think, oh no, I know there's a shark in there, and I know I'm going to be eaten by it. And sure enough, how many years later, the movie Jaws comes out. And the beautiful thing about movies is there's always, or really good movies, there are sayings, and I listed a whole bunch of them. I got off on one of those little wormholes yesterday and went looking at favorite movie lines. So fun, and you remember them. But I remember when Brody was looking down, putting the chum in the water, and Jaws, you see Jaws for the first time, the whole first half of the movie you didn't, and he looks at this gigantic animal and says, I think we're going to need a bigger boat. And sure enough, in the cocoon, that's exactly what we need. We need a bigger consciousness. We need to have new beliefs about life. Because the wonderful thing about stories is they can be edited and amended, and they can evolve, and the stories of life change, don't they? Our stories change, and everybody here and everybody out there, we're in this together because we believe in something bigger and more. And we also know that the change that we have to do is change within us. The change doesn't come out there until it happens in here. And I want to tell you, if you think way back to the ancient Jews, and in the first few books of the Old Testament, the Talmud, they tell a story that had effect on lives. They tell a story about intergenerational punishment. that the sins of the fathers would be inherited by the children. And the quote from the Talmud says, "The parents have eaten sour grapes, and the children's teeth are set on edge." So the children live thinking every problem they have has been inherited by their parents. So you can either feel very angry and upset, or you can kind of slough it off and just say, well, it's not my fault. That belongs to somebody else. But luckily enough, the story changed. Jesus came along, and he was with his disciples, and he came upon a man that had been blind since he was born. And the disciples asked Jesus, they said, well, did this man sin? Did this man's father sin? And Jesus said, neither the man's father nor this man have sinned. This has been put on this man. This has happened. This experience has happened to this man that he might display the glory of God. What a lesson for us all. That whatever experience we're having in life is not a punishment. God loves us. Life is good. Life is for us. It's not a punishment. It's for us to go deeper and deeper and get a bigger story. That there's something so much more going on here. And how appropriate that is for this time in life. That there's something more that wants to be revealed through us and as us. So what we know as good science of mind religious scientists is that God is all there is, and God is good, and life is for us, and there's a unity to all life. It's all God in action. We know all that. We have to learn to live that. What are the stumbling blocks? Our mind can tell us the things we know, but what are the stumbling blocks that keep us from actually living a totally fulfilled life? We live in an abundant universe, a beautiful and abundant universe. What keeps us from experiencing the good that is ever present? Well, there's several reasons. First of all, you can't believe everything you think. And I mean that, because a lot of it, we don't inherit the sins of our fathers, but there's this thing Jung called the collective unconsciousness, and Ernest Holmes called it race consciousness, but that's a little confusing because people get confused. It's separate races, where it's the human race consciousness, which are the human thoughts from all the ages, the thought patterns that are just collected, because they never go away. They can be transformed and amended if we do that. But we live in this energy of collective unconsciousness, and unless we consciously transform the old thoughts that are often negative, hurtful, deceivious, greedy, whatever they are, unless we consciously change them, we're still marinating in that pool of unconscious thoughts. And we get our opinion about those thoughts, right? We get opinions, so we think we know what's true and right. We think we're the ones that have got, I know what's right, I understand. And those opinions we have become like, we make them solid like bricks or stones, because we get really rigid in our thinking and we think, I know the right answer. Is there anybody else that thinks maybe they know the right answer to most things? I mean, we get that way. The longer we live, sometimes we really think we know the right way. The right way is somewhere in the middle. I mean, we are a gigantic world of diverse people. We're not going to think the same or believe the same, but we know that we can listen and understand and get to know each other through our stories if we take the time to listen. But what happens, Ernest Holmes said, the worst stumbling block we have, the worst one, is dishonesty. But it's not dishonesty to someone else. It's dishonesty to ourselves. When we're not willing to face the things we don't like or don't understand, we just push them away. Do you understand? Instead of facing them and saying, oh, I don't understand that. I'm in my own little world, just like Karen talking about being on her own little dot. She was on a little dot. She was going to stay there in her own worry and concern, but she had to listen to someone else to grow and expand. But when we don't know or understand someone else or don't like what they're saying, we're dishonest, and that could be called a spiritual bypass. We just shove it away and don't talk about it. If we're going to heal this world and move to that bigger story, that bigger understanding, we need to start. We don't need a bigger boat. We need more bridges of connection in whatever way we can. In whatever way we can. You know, one of the movies that I thought about was The Bucket List. And in The Bucket List, there's two people from these very diverse backgrounds. They have absolutely nothing in common. One's a billionaire, a corporate billionaire, and the other is a working class mechanic. And the only thing they have in common, they aren't culturally similar, they're nothing, but they both have a terminal illness, and they're sharing the same hospital room. So that brings you together and also gives you a great time to listen. And so here they are in this hospital room, and they start talking and sharing some stories and learning maybe they have a little bit more in common than they thought. Both of them had a lot of things to do in their life that never happened. And this is the story that Carter, the mechanic, told Cole, the billionaire. He said, you know, the ancient Egyptians have a beautiful belief about death. They believe when your soul dies and it goes to the gates of heaven, there are two guards there. And the guards ask you two questions, and your answer to those questions will determine if you get through the gates or not. The questions are, have you found joy in your life? The second question, have you shared that joy or brought joy to others? Boy, that kind of puts life in perspective, doesn't it? That puts life in perspective. So we have this stumbling block of dishonesty that really, if we could just look at, we're here to find joy in ourselves and bring joy to others. And also, the past, so many of us carry the past around like a big, huge backpack full of those bricks I was talking about on our back. We carry it into the present moment. Now, the past has a purpose, and it can serve us. Rafiki from The Lion King said, oh yes, the past hurts, but you can either run from it or learn from it. When we learn from our experiences in life, when we learn what they teach us, we can become better people, and we can find that joy and give that joy. But until we find it, now, mystics all tell the same story. They've all had that experience of the oneness. Now, whatever that oneness is, if you call it God, if you call it Mother Nature, if you call it the cosmos, doesn't matter. They've had the experience of the oneness, and they know we're all diverse human beings, but we're all one with this energy and goodness we call God. So one of the mystics, my second favorite Sufi, Hafez, talks about the past. And he says, what do sad people have in common? What do they have in common, these sad people we keep running into? It seems they have all built a shrine to the past. And it seems they go there often and do this strange wail and worship. What is the beginning of happiness? To stop being so religious like that. What are we honoring and worshiping? How about the newness and the possibility in every single moment? You know, if there's something, and I know a lot of people in life right now are having serious struggles and hardships. We can't heal if we just think we're going to wish away our problems. We can't heal if we just do our spiritual exercises without without having a healing story to transform those experiences. Now think about it. If we just sit in this pandemic and wonder what's going on, we can marinate in the problems and what we don't have and what there isn't. But if we realize what it's giving us, this opportunity to go in and really vision a new future and see what changes can come, and to build intimate connections with people instead of the big gatherings, that we can do more intimate things, that we can have a whole different experience in life. It's up to us what we do right now. It's up to us if we want to build those bridges and make connections and create a whole new story, a story of this world. We have a vision at the Centers for Spiritual Living, and it's creating a world that works for everyone. It doesn't say creating a world that works my way or giving up a world that I want. It means creating a world that works for everyone. And that would mean a story. Well, what would it mean? Think about in your own mind, because I can't tell your story. I can only tell my story. What would it mean if we really did create this world that worked for everyone? When Roger was giving his prayer this morning, you could feel his passion. He said, everyone that can hear my voice, I want you to know this, that God is for us, that life is good, that we're in this together. Whatever I couldn't say his words as much as I could take the feeling of what he was saying, to bring people together instead of separate them. So let me ask you right now, if you were going to build a bridge today, just one bridge, a bridge to tell a story, or listen to a story, or create a new story, or make something new, if you're going to do that today, what would it look like? What story would you be telling? To really take this time we have in our cocoon, our time of quiet, take some time to do what we need to do every day. Cleanse away all the old thoughts from yesterday and the past. Cleanse them away. Ernest Holmes says a daily practice. Cleanse it away. Replace it with a conviction and faith that life is good. Because every day, here's the practice I want you to do. That story, creating a life for everyone. Just like every day we choose what clothes we're going to put on. I want you to choose what thoughts you're going to think today, throughout the day, to be building the bridges for this new world we're creating, for loving and understanding yourself more, and loving one another. God is a verb. It's an unconditional, ever-flowing fountain of love for us and everything. We sang, use me. Let that be our motto, use me. So today, I'm just going to ask you as we close today, I want you to just take a nice deep breath, and whatever pain, worry, problem you had, whatever it is, just blow it out into that energy of oneness, unity, faith and goodness. Just breathe in whatever problems there were and breathe out the joy and the love you know to be true. And just right now, if you'll say after me, I am the bridge, creating a new life, bringing people together in new and wonderful ways. I put my faith in God. I put my faith in love. And I put my faith in each and every one of you. Thank you so much. Thank you for being here. We love you. We appreciate you. And together we make miracles. God bless you.